Good evening, everyone. Here's a weather forecast update for the Ozarks. Winter is here. It is, after all, approaching the middle of January, so the fact that cold air and snow is in the forecast shouldn't be a big surprise, but it's, people like to talk about it a lot. So, yeah, we're just going to talk about the weather pattern specifically over about the next 5 to 6 days across southwest Missouri. And this is being recorded on Thursday evening, and it's the 11th, just so you know, because, time date does matter when we talk about the weather. Can't tell you how many times I see things that were days old, and I click, I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like, no, that's old news. Anyway, what are we looking at? We'll start with our typical round here. We're looking at both short range and long range concerns. Short range, so for the certain type of model to kick in, medium to short range, we're looking at 2.5 days. Anything beyond that, we start to look at the long range models. So, but let me give you a long range model start just to kind of give you an overview of why things are going to be unfolding the way they will the next couple of days. So this is again 500 millibar flow. You can think of it for all practical purposes as the jet stream, except we're not looking at wind here. One way to look at this might be just to consider these areas of red and yellow kind of energy areas where storms might develop. So this is the GFS model. This was run this afternoon. So we'll kind of loop through here and see where we end up. So this is valid about, about now right here. And then this little storm right here is what's going to produce the next round of winter precipitation in the Ozarks. That'll pass by. By the way, the structure of that looks very similar to the one that passed by earlier this week on Monday and Tuesday, although I don't think that this one will be nearly as deep and as windy as that one was. That was incredible. And then coming in behind this is interesting. So once this storm passes, this is late on Friday, here's early Saturday now, Saturday mid-morning, the storminess passes by, but what you don't see, and I'll show you here in a minute, is Arctic air is undercutting this a little bit. This is what's called the polar jet stream. Okay, and it's very typical that when you're under the polar jet stream, you're going to see some polar air, but you also, as storms come and go, will see sort of an undulation. You'll see cold air and then warm air, and a lot of times the cold air gets wedged underneath here. The true Arctic core doesn't actually get here yet, and that's very significant for a snow that I'll talk about late in the weekend into Monday. So this is again on Saturday. We're kind of in between weather systems. The snow from that past storm, by the way, will mostly accumulate far to the north of Springfield and the Ozarks. And then right in through here, this is interesting. See this little disturbance right here? This is going to interact for our area with pure snow. So in other words, when we look at the temperature profile for late Sunday and Monday, this if it produces any precipitation, it's going to be snow. So this is going to pass by, and it's not going to necessarily produce a deep storm. This is one of those deceptive type of systems where there's going to be lift in the atmosphere to wring out snow, but it's not going to be like a deep cyclone or low pressure area like the one that produced all the wind earlier this week. And then finally, when you get into this, you start seeing what happens here later. This is the final push of the Arctic air right here. So what's coming in behind this is the actual center of the high, and that's what's going to send us tanking in temperatures even more coming up early next week, and we'll talk about that more in a second. If you want to look at the models and see if they agree, we can just kind of look at the European model, which is, same map here, 500 millibars energy, and so there's not going to be a lot of disagreement here. This kind of passes us by tomorrow, so this is maybe a little slower than the GFS model. Okay, and then we kind of go further ahead. Actually, this is a run I don't want to look at. Let's look at this one. We got more data here. Okay, so this is right here. This one's maybe a little slower, but it's still a storm that it will actually probably start as rain a little bit here tomorrow morning again, like that last system, and change over to snow. And then again, we're in this intermediate zone sort of over the early weekend. The core of the Arctic air is right there, and so all it takes is a jet stream nudge. There's that little storm. Again, doesn't look like a whole lot Sunday night and Monday, but it could produce a pretty good accumulating snow. Northern Arkansas, southern Missouri. And then the final push of the cold air right there, which is going to be centered right behind here. And that's what's going to come into our area. So how cold are we looking, and what kind of snow chances are we looking at? Well, let's do a couple of gear changes here. Let's go back to the GFS. Let's change our sector to something, what do we want to look at here? We want to look at probably this one. Okay, and we'll go back. So this is the storm that's developing for tomorrow. This is, let's go one more ahead. This is about noon tomorrow. Again, this is the flow. But what we want to look at is precipitation type here. So we'll go here and here and here. And you can see this is already kind of winding up and passing us by. But we have a rain transition somewhere between 6 a.m. and noon. maybe a little bit of ice and freezing precipitation in between these two layers. So again, it'll be pretty breezy tomorrow, but not gusts over 40, I think, but gusts in the 30s are probably possible as this low develops and tracks an almost identical path to what the last one did. And then that eases out of here, or actually it doesn't ease out, it moves out pretty darn quick. And then we take that subtle period, and then right in here, now this is the snow. This is 18Z on Sunday, which is noon, and then it kind of spreads quickly eastward through the afternoon on Sunday, kind of redevelops across northern Arkansas into the Sunday evening hours. There's even a secondary development there over southwest Missouri, and then through Monday, it's out of here. That's all the GFS model's idea of what is going to happen. Now, I don't have an equivalent map for the European model. I could pay for it. I just don't have it right now. So instead, let's change gears and take a look at the snow accumulation, and that I do have in both models. And we'll look at total here. And we're back on the GFS now, or did we leave? I can't remember. Anyway, so this is tomorrow. So you're seeing 1.5, 0.8, 1.4. But again, it's going to stick in mostly grassy areas. This hasn't been it hasn't been cold enough really for that to have an impact. Notice that it snows pretty good in Iowa and northern parts of Missouri and back into Nebraska. And then that goes away. And then this right here is the one Sunday afternoon and into the early hours of Monday. And you'll notice some of the accumulations here. That's a 5.7 in Springfield. This one, I believe, is 8.9. Is that what I'm seeing? Yeah. No, 9.4 or around the Rogers, Fayetteville area. So yeah, that's what you're looking at there. So this map does exist for the European model. So we'll look at that and see if there's any differences. Yeah, tomorrow, again, 1 inch at the most, 0.1, 0.5. Not something we need to get too worried about tomorrow afternoon, just like the last storm. There never really was supposed to be any significant snow accumulation with that one, by the way, and there wasn't. So again, Iowa getting pounded with that. Now the European model on this second storm waits a little longer. This is Tuesday, and it's a little bit weaker. With only 2 to 3 inch total showing up. Now, just to show you how fault with error this could be, this same model yesterday was showing equal amounts of snow as the GFS. So again, that's kind of far out to be able to nail that down very precisely. Now we'll talk about the cold in a minute. One more good thing I do want to check is the shorter range model, the NAM, the NAM, and see what it does. I don't think it's going to surprise us here with precipitation tomorrow. Nope. 0.5, 0.1. And I don't know if we get into Sunday evening or not. Yeah, kind of. It kind of stops right around dinner time on Sunday. So you start to see that spread toward us, but doesn't really get in here yet. So this model is not really very useful to us yet. Now, let's go back to the GFS and take a look at these temperatures. So surface temperatures. And by the way, while I'm loading up the map, I will tell you that my wife and I bought tickets to the Chiefs game on Saturday night. And we did this knowingly. In other words, we didn't buy them like months ago and said, oh, we got to go where the temperature will be 0 at game time. We knew it would be cold. I thought maybe it would be in the teens, but it's been getting progressively colder each time I look at it. And then having it in the evening doesn't help. Thank you, NFL. And so anyway, yeah, I'll have a Facebook post and probably some videos coming out on that adventure coming up. Anyway, so let's look at this Arctic air here. So this is going to be the low that wraps up and goes over St. Louis. So you can see it kind of drags down on some polar air here. This is during the day on Friday. During the day on Saturday is when the Arctic front sets up across the Ozarks pretty much. So that's noon on Saturday. So the temperature in Kansas City, by the way, will be 7. Here in Springfield, it'll be 18. So we won't get above freezing on Saturday. And then this is Sunday morning. The low temperature in Kansas City is -8. Here we get down to 0 on this model. And then, like I said, the cold air, and that's that high right there, settles in right through the late part of the week. And then we start getting into some of the lowest temperatures. So Springfield is forecast here. Let's go back one. Tuesday morning, that's a -6 right there. And we see minus teens pretty widespread through the northern part of the plains. I think the Euro model does temperatures. No, I don't think it does actually. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so we'll go here, and again, you're seeing on Friday the cold air being dragged in. On Saturday, about noon or so, Springfield sits at about 20, a little bit warmer. Kansas City is about 4 or 5, and then it kind of sets in there. And then Sunday morning, we're looking at, according to the Euro model, a -4, -9 in Kansas City. And then when it really sets in is right through when this big old high comes down right around here. Let's see, right about there we go. Well, this one's not as cold. This one is 1 to 0, negative numbers upstate. So anyway, that's what we're looking at. So the takeaway on all this is that tomorrow's system very similar to the one we had on Monday and Tuesday, except not as windy on the storm coming in. Pretty close to being as windy and as the storm exits. Same snow profile as last one. Colder weekend, won't get above freezing. Snow impacts could be pretty significant coming here maybe as early as just after lunch on Sunday and possibly through that next 24-hour period. And that could accumulate several inches in the Ozarks. Again, it's kind of hard to tell. I'll feel a lot better once the shorter range models come into range and I start to see that a little bit more. So go Chiefs. We'll probably put a picture or a video up of us wearing our gear, which has been entertaining. I will say it's been fun for my wife and I to shop for all this stuff. And I realized I didn't have a good pair of gloves or a winter coat for the Ozarks anyway, so it was probably something I should have done. Anyway, we're signing out for now. If I have another update to bring you, it probably will be early on Saturday. Have a good night.